Welcome back. So happy to have you here for the second installment of Weather Club Wednesday. Today's topic, hurricanes. And I'd like to thank Pedro Rivera. He's the one advancing the slides for me today, giving me some help. The first thing we need to do is define what a hurricane is. It's this very strong tropical cyclone with sustained winds of at least 74 miles per hour. We'll talk more about what that means in a moment. So hurricane season is June 1st to November 30th. That's the summer to fall. That's when ocean waters are warmest. And there's a reason the ocean waters need to be warm for hurricanes that we'll get into in a moment too. And when it comes to these storms, there are two major threats. The first one, wind, which has huge damaging power. The second one, flooding. That water can do big damage too. So let's break down what wind can do. This is the power of wind, not even a hurricane, just a windy day. And check out what happens when this girl grabs the door handle here. Whoop, she flies away. But she's okay though, you don't have to worry about her. There are a few things we could take away from this. Number one, you don't need very strong wind speeds to see impacts like this. Number two, if you're a parent watching this, you take your eye off your kid for 1 second, and this is what happens. Watch the mom here. She's just looking away for a moment as her kid goes flying. And number three, this girl knows what she's doing. She holds on to the two things that are very important. One, the door handle. Two, she doesn't let go of that iPhone. So she's smart there. Let's see what wind can do. If you're at home and you like math, this equation is right up your alley. So the wind speed to move a certain object has a formula. The wind speed equals the square root of 195 multiplied by the weight of the object divided by the area in square feet of the object. So if you have the weight and area, you can find out how much wind it takes to move something laterally or side to side. Let's look at these examples. First one, maple leaf. Don't expect much wind, and it isn't. 3 miles per hour. The second one, a trash bin that you might see outside on the curb of a street. That's almost 30 miles per hour. The third one, a person that weighs 175 pounds. That's just about my weight. It would take 67 miles per hour winds to move me from side to side. And the last one, an average car that weighs 2,871 pounds. It would take just 90 miles per hour winds to move that from side to side. So that shows you what wind can do. And now let's talk about how hurricanes form. Where do they come from? Well, they start pretty far away, and there's something I want to tell you about here. It comes from the coast of Africa off to the water, and it uses the warm waters of the Atlantic here to use it as fuel. And the air rises, becomes a strong area of low pressure. Then winds take it across the Atlantic, and if conditions are just right, that's when you can form a hurricane. Where it goes from here, it's all up to what's happening with current conditions. Go north, go south, the Gulf of Mexico, or it could pull back to the east based on the winds. So hurricanes have a scale. This is what they're classified or based on. It's wind. The minimum wind speed requirement for a hurricane, 74 miles per hour. We talked about that in the definition. So a lot of us probably haven't been in a hurricane or felt what this is like, but a lot of us probably have held a hand out the window of a car while it's in motion, if you've been driving it or you're a passenger in it while your parents are driving it. So next time you're on the highway, check out the speed. Ask your parents what the speed is, probably around 75 miles per hour. On a calm day when it's not windy, roll down the window and hold your hand out there for 1 second. You'll feel this force pressing against your hand. And then imagine your whole body outside in that. And that's the minimum, the smallest wind speed requirement for a hurricane. It goes to category 2, 3, 4, 5, which is 156 miles per hour or even greater. And if that's hard to visualize, well, I have this for you next. Check this out. This is going to show you what hurricane scales are like. So we're starting with category 1, which is 74 miles per hour up to 95 miles per hour. You'll start to notice some differences here. Definitely moving things sideways, especially your trash can. Then we go to category 2, up to 110 miles per hour. These strong palm trees are bending. Category 3, there goes the shingles to your house. The roofing, the exterior becomes at risk. This is a major hurricane. A category 4, your house, the walls might be blown off. And by category 5, the only thing left could be the foundation of your home, as pretty much everything gets blown away. And the damage we call a category 5 hurricane that it creates is catastrophic. That means everything is lost. So that's the wind side. Let's go over the water side. There's something called storm surge. So you have your normal sea level, and ocean surge is moving ocean water onto land. It goes up by 3 feet, then 6 feet, could go up to 12 feet, and you could see how things get bad really quickly. So when it comes to storm surge, this floods your home. This moves everything around. This damages cars, damages property, and this is often the deadliest part of a hurricane. So when it comes to hurricane and you're on the coastline, you want to go further inland to avoid something like this. Sandy is a superstorm. And what that means is it's not just a hurricane. It met up with another system and combined to be something else. This happened in 2011, and it's close to my heart, close to home, because this was my home. This is North Shore of Long Island, New York, where I grew up. And an L that's going to show up right here stands for low pressure. That's what hurricanes are. That's what storms are, areas of low pressure. And around low pressure systems, winds spin counterclockwise. So all this wind is pushing water in between this gap between Long Island and Connecticut called the Long Island Sound. So that water is going up and up and up. It has nowhere to go, but where? It goes onto land, and that's our storm surge. So my hometown of Port Washington, New York, ended up looking like this. Roads were turned to rivers. Things were shut down. People lost power for weeks at a time. And fortunately, I wasn't living there during this, but my parents were, and it was a very hard time for them, and it was a hard time for a lot of people. On the South Shore of Long Island, I've never seen anything like it. I have friends from a town called Long Beach that I saw pictures and videos of them shoveling sand out of their homes like it was snow. And they're still rebuilding from this almost 10 years later. So that's what a real-life example of a hurricane can do. And remember last week for our weather lesson, if you joined us, we talked about thunderstorms and lightning. Well, that's a part of hurricanes too. This is Hurricane Humberto in 2019, a Category 3 storm, flashes of lightning and thunderstorms happening here, and they could even produce tornadoes as well. So it's wind, it's flooding, it's thunderstorms, tornadoes, all possible in these massive systems that we call hurricanes. So they're pretty special events. And if you're thinking you're worried about this, but you're living in California, you probably don't have to. Hurricanes don't really hit California for a couple of reasons. Well, these are all hurricane paths since 1851 in the Atlantic and 1949 in the Pacific. Notice how they hit the East Coast, curl away. When it comes to the West Coast, they kind of just all go away. Well, in the Pacific, the water temperature is colder, and hurricanes don't like that. They can't feed on that. It doesn't give them energy. Second reason, unfavorable wind. These storms get pushed further away from the coast. It's very, very rare that they curl back, and if they do, it's usually to our south. So that's all about hurricanes that you need to know, and hopefully you learned something, and hopefully you'll join me next week for our third installment of Weather Club Wednesday. I'll pick a new topic and we'll get going. And if you want to watch me, I try to teach every day. I'm joined by Pedro Rivera, who's helped me out right now, Monday through Friday mornings, 4:30 to 10 a.m. on Fox 40. I hope to see you there.